This video talks about Lake's response to the bubonic plague and how it teaches us today. So let's take a listen to that. By the way, this is Roberts Liardon giving, I guess it was on an old television program, but this is Roberts Liardon speaking. Someone has shared this video on YouTube, so just wanted to let you know who it was speaking, so that way you had all the information.
One of my favorite stories, when he first got there, he found that there was a plague in South Africa and people were dying, but the people were so scared of the people that had died that they didn't want to touch them and didn't want to bury them, scared that they would get the disease themselves. And that was one way that they could contract the disease that was happening there in South Africa. But Lake went out and grabbed the shovel and began to help bury the dead so that at least other folks wouldn't get sick and die themselves. And the doctors came and says, "Man, do you know what you're doing? You know that you're writing your own death certificate out by touching these bodies, because we don't know how this disease is contracted, but if you mess with the dead and you mess with them the wrong way without protection and different things, well, my friend, you're going to die." He says, "No, when the disease touches me, it dies." And they went, "Yeah, right. There's something wrong with this." But he goes, "No, the law of life in Christ Jesus has set me free from the law of sin and death. So that law that I have in Christ Jesus gives me power over this disease that causes death." He says, "You can take the germ and put it in my hand and you can watch it die." And the doctors and a few scientists now that have got listening to Lake, the Lake has got their attention, turn and say, "All right, we'll do that experiment." And so they went and got some of the saliva from some of the people that had died and put on his hand, put his hand under some special microscopes and begin to see that the disease began to die in his hands. And he never got sick. He was one of the ones that helped bury the dead and take care of the sick. And the doctor says, "Well, you've got something we don't have." And Lake goes, "Well, you can get it if you want it. It all comes through Christ."
So I want to read an excerpt from a book that Gordon Lindsay edited that had to do with John G. Lake. And this is chapter 12, as I mentioned a minute ago, about the law of life and the law of death. So I'm going to read a good little amount of this because it pertains to this particular account of the plague. Lake goes on to say, divine protection during that great plague that I mentioned, they sent government ship with supplies and a corps of doctors. One of the doctors sent for me, and he said, "What have you been using to protect yourself? Our corps has this preventative and that which we use as protection, but we concluded that if a man could stay on the ground as you have and keep ministering to the sick and burying the dead, you must have a secret. What is it?" I answered, "Brother, that is the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. I believe that just as long as I keep my soul in contact with the living God, so that his Spirit is flowing into my soul and body, that no germ will ever attach itself to me, for the Spirit of God will kill it." He asked, "Don't you think that you had better use our preventative?" I replied, "No, but doctor, I think that you would like to experiment with me. If you will go over to one of those dead people and take the foam that comes out of their lungs after death, then put it under the microscope, you will see masses of living germs. You will find they are alive until a reasonable time after a man is dead. You can fill my hand with them, and I will keep it under the microscope." Just pay attention to this wording, okay? Because I'm going to come back to this as we talk. "You can fill my hand with them and keep it under the and I will keep it under the microscope. And instead of these germs remaining alive, they will die instantly." They tried it and found it was true. They questioned, "What is that?" I replied, "That is the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. When